Welcome to the Family Dynasty Podcast, where legacy meets leadership. I'm your host, Matt Dewing, family guide, business advisor, and believer in generational purpose. Our aim is to inspire and equip you to lead your family so that together you will experience compounding wealth in all 7 capitals through the generations. Each week we uncover timeless wisdom, cultural dynamics, and practical tools to help you lead with vision, live with intentionality, and build a flourishing family that multiplies in impact. Let's get to work. The dynasty starts now. Welcome back to the Family Dynasty Podcast, where today we're unpacking the 4th capital of the 7 capitals of wealth, which is intellectual wealth. When we talk about wealth in the Family Dynasty framework, we're not just talking about money or possessions. Wealth is much broader, richer, and deeper. Intellectual wealth is the capital of ideas, wisdom, and knowledge. It's the ability to think critically, to learn continuously, to pass down stories, traditions, and insights that shape the next generation. Proverbs 4:7 reminds us, the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Though it cost you all you have, get understanding. Intellectual wealth is about stewarding the mind that God has given us and cultivating it in ways that strengthens our family for generations. In today's conversation, I'm joined by 3 of my daughters. Ellie, who regularly joins me on these discussions, recently gave birth to her firstborn daughter, so she's not able to be with us today. But for the first time, my second daughter, Grace, joins us for this conversation, which I'm thrilled about. You'll also hear from Megan and Elena, as together we reflect on how families can grow in knowledge, sharpen one another, and apply wisdom to everyday life. And in the middle of our talk, you'll get to be part of a very fun moment where I realize that my son and daughter-in-law have just made their big announcement to everyone. They're expecting their first child. That moment reminds me that intellectual wealth isn't just about head knowledge. It's about family memory, the stories that mark turning points in our dynasty, and the wisdom we pass on as new generations begin. So today, lean in with us as we ask, how do we build intellectual wealth in our homes? How do we cultivate curiosity, discernment, and lifelong learning? And how do we make sure the truths and insights God has entrusted to us aren't just stored in books or podcasts, but embodied in family life so that they're lived out, remembered, and multiplied through the generations? Let's jump in.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hello, girls. Welcome to another Family Dynasty Podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
I'm saying another to Megan and Elena. And Grace, welcome to your first ever
Thank
Family
you.
Dynasty Podcast. 3 of my 4 oldest daughters joining me for a conversation. What could be better than this? This is great. Well, today we are discussing the 4th capital of wealth, which is intellectual wealth. So there's a lot of intellectual wealth right here in this room, and I'm excited to discuss this topic with you. Let's start off with a definition. Here's a definition for family total intellectual capital. It's the multiplied value of each family member's unique mental and developmental capital, including aptitudes, curiosity, lifelong learning, and the application of knowledge. It's stewardship across generations. So, talk to me. What's your take on intellectual capital? Part of this series, what's exciting to me is we're not only producing a podcast. This is like training time for me with the family on what's important and what it's about. And so I'm not here. We're not pretending that you guys have given intellectual capital a lot of deep thought and have deep opinions about it. But let's discuss it. What comes to mind with it? What is it about? Why is it important? Let's just start with your general thoughts.
Well, when I first heard it, I think I very much immediately go to okay, have you had a college education or are you smart? not necessarily thinking of it in terms of skills and, I don't know, you were saying curiosities and lifelong learning and stuff like that. So I think that was kind of a mindset shift.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad it shifted your mindset.
I think our family's good with lifelong learning. I feel like Grandma and Grandpa are always taking on new projects, and we all work on things together. We're always problem solving together, and everyone has skills, bringing it together. Those skills are shared amongst the family. Other people pick up on what someone has to bring, and I think there's a lot of intellectual wealth in the family that gets shared. And I'll see someone do something, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Or like in my garden, like I kind of caught the bug of gardening from Grandma and Grandpa. Like, what do you guys do for this or whatever? And so they share that generational wealth, and I know they do it with other members of the family. And just there's plenty of examples.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the lifelong learning idea. It's not just, while you're in school or school age that you're learning. The family just continues. And I feel like we have an environment that thrives on learning and just learning in all types of ways, whether it's, more of the traditional educational sense or skills and talents and things like that.
Learning and teaching, because doesn't our family have a lot of teachers in
Right.
So there's a lot of people who have the knowledge and are wanting to share that knowledge with like someone else or the next generation or whatever.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we've recognized as a family, that God has gifted us. Kind of one of our family strengths is we're a bunch of teachers. We enjoy teaching, and so part of the motivation of a teacher is you want to learn. You want to continually learn so that you have a wealth from which you can teach. You've heard me say this before, and I think I even mentioned it on a podcast, but I don't want to miss an opportunity. I love this. This was Zig Ziglar. When I remember I was a big fan of Zig Ziglar. Listened to everything he had, and one of the things that stuck with me from the first time I heard it, he talked about audio university. He would recommend that when you're in the car, you're just playing something, continually learning. And he put out this paradigm that I latched onto, and he said, this is kind of what I adopted for the family, and you've heard me say this, that a college education is optional. I've never pressured any one of you to get a college education. Lena, you started it. You enrolled in an entrepreneurship degree, and after one semester, he said, I don't really love school.
I did some of it while I was still in high school.
Yes.
And then I think I did not one full year out of high school.
Right, you probably had a year and a half to 2 years of college credits because you were doing it during high school while you were homeschooled. Yeah. But at some point you said, and I'll say it, or you can.
I was like, this isn't for me. I hate it. I hate getting up every morning and doing this book work and computer work. I'd rather just get a job.
You're a hands-on learner,
myself. Yeah.
and you said, I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to learn about being an entrepreneur. I want to be one.
Yeah. And it just, I think the way the CLEP test and the way the learning was set up just wasn't built for my learning abilities. I think if I had done it maybe a different way, I would have done better, but just, that wasn't for me.
But the point I'm trying to make is there was no shame in you not getting a college education because there was always a confidence that you're
I was
going to
worried about it. I was terrified to ask. Yeah, but you were good with it.
Yeah, and you have, right? That's many years ago, and you have this curiosity that continues. So the idea was college education is optional. A degree is optional. Education is not. Right? Adopting this attitude of lifelong learning, and there's no excuse why any one of us shouldn't have an education to the level of a master's degree in whatever area our curiosity primarily takes us. And so this has been the mantra and the kind of ethos that we've had as a family, and I think in general, right, our family has really latched onto that, and we don't have any PhDs in the family. I don't think we've taken it that far.
No. That was something I was thinking about. I was like, when I heard of intellectual wealth or intellectual capital, I was like, our family's kind of lacking this. We don't have doctors, lawyers, like all these big things that it takes for a degree. I was like, well, but we've got a lot of skills that people really want. We've got multiple family members who have built their own house. We've got, people who are really good at working with the land and animals and like all this huge range of skills that some people really want and have to work hard for. And some people even pay to do courses to learn on these,
That's right.
subjects. So
Yeah.
we have intellectual wealth in just a different area than I think what like society is like, oh, you're smart because you have a PhD as a doctor or whatever.
Yeah, these terminal degrees these terminal degrees, right? These ideas that you have exhausted and kind of hit the pinnacle of learning in a certain subject, right? To your point, doctors or PhD is what we tend to think about. And I love the fact, because this is what we want families to begin to say is, oh, we're not a family that owns any intellectual property. We don't have patents, therefore we don't have intellectual wealth. And our message is, no, you're thinking about it all wrong. You guys want to jump on what Elena was saying and expound on that anymore? Just this idea of just some of the thoughts around intellectual wealth and our family, or the ways you're thinking about it.
Well, kind of going back to the teacher thing, I was having a conversation with my little cousins, Ty and Jesse, and I was talking about how I had to go back to school. And Jesse said, oh yeah, Ty's in college right now. And I said, oh yeah? He's like, yep, I'm going to Grandpa College because of how much he's learning from skills just taught around the farm.
And Ty is 10 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Ty, has a hard time sticking with the school book if he knows Grandpa is doing something on the farm. He
Doing
wants
hay, doing wood, doing anything.
he is Grandpa's apprentice.
Yeah.
For sure. And Grandpa is a wonderful teacher. Yeah, he's in a college of Grandpa. That's fantastic.
Yep.
So let's distinguish between intellectual wealth and intellectual property. When we think of intellectual wealth, we want to be thinking of what are the skills, aptitudes, curiosity, knowledge, and creativity. Now, intellectual wealth can turn into intellectual property, and we want to challenge families to consider that and think about it. But the first step is understanding that whatever intellectual wealth you have right now is a wealth. Whether you've spent time thinking about it, whether you've consciously realized it or tried to value it, is not important. It's first of all just pausing long enough to appreciate that there is wealth there. Right? And yes, you can consider it like, what is your family's intellectual wealth compared to what it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and how's it growing? You could also say, how is our family's intellectual wealth compared to other families' intellectual wealth? But I think the first step is just understand you have it to some degree. Every family has a measure of intellectual wealth. As opposed to in that area, intellectual property is the tangible outputs of intellectual wealth. It's books, systems, inventions, designs. For intellectual wealth, not property, it exists in people long before it's formalized and monetized. To take it to intellectual property, it can then be protected, monetized, and passed down legally. If we're just talking about intellectual wealth, it compounds when family members challenge, teach, and sharpen each other. That's the kind of family system that we're engaged in and trying to hone. And taking that to intellectual property requires intentional development, protection, and stewardship. And so I think we're a good example of a family who is going through the growth process of appreciating our intellectual wealth, just to the point Elena said. The first thought is, oh, yeah, no PhDs in the family. I guess we don't have intellectual wealth. The same. Wait. No, we are rich with intellectual wealth, and we just need to appreciate it. Are you guys familiar with the kind of the 4 stages of skill development? Anybody, you want to walk us through what those 4 are?
I don't know if I know
I've
those.
been talking too long, but I'll keep talking. Thank you for being my audience today. Listen to me. Oh, we do want to get to a discussion. So the first part is when we go to the University of Grandpa, when we see how skilled he is, we realize I'm unskilled. For the first time, I become consciously unskilled. First step is before that is unconsciously unskilled. You don't even know you're unskilled, right? Then you become consciously unskilled. Then you move into conscious skilled, right? Where you're thinking hard about it to be skilled. until you move to this point where you have a lot of skill, but you don't even think about it. It's just automatic and it naturally happens. And this is where we operate as a family. This is kind of the way we go about our days, is because our skill is so unconscious that we forget what it took to build that skill. And so this is kind of a reverse engineering process to say, okay, what skill do we have? How did we acquire it? How can we measure it? What are the thought processes we've had developed to get these skills? And so, just appreciating how simple skill development is and how we operate in that unconscious realm of it will help us realize this is why we take it for granted. So I think we're a classic family that's just coming alive to the reality of intellectual. We're not a family with patents. We have developed an intellectual property strategy that we are employing and beginning to use for some intercompany agreements. However, with that in mind, as we're maturing as a family, appreciating our intellectual wealth, and then moving toward developing intellectual property, what are some of the things in our family? And we can do this in a way that's discovery for ourselves as well as helping others. Just kind of what process would they engage with in their family to begin to say, what are some of the things that we have intellectual wealth in that we could move toward creating intellectual property? What's true for the Doing family in that realm?
I definitely see a lot of workshops being popular, people paying for a weekend or a day workshop in a specific area that they want to gain knowledge in. So say, like years ago, Grandpa, Uncle Nate, and I went to a high-intensity rotational grazing workshop. We paid a lot of money for this 2-3 day workshop where we learned, and now we use those practices in our own cattle operations. Like, what if we hosted one of those for farmers who had an interest? Or Grandpa talked about doing like an elderberry syrup workshop where, because he's gotten into that, he went and learned something. He's like, I could then do my own. And
and Grandpa is featured on the Pennsylvania network every year when he goes to the farm show.
He does maple syrup workshops, and he holds his open house, and people come to learn about how our family makes maple syrup.
Your uncles and cousins are skilled in timber framing. And so when you think about intellectual property as, as the family enterprise is a partner with Sean and Trudy's family enterprise in Family Dynasty, this is part of what we're doing is the intellectual property of Family Dynasty, that is the 7 capitals of wealth, that is helping other people, in that we're inviting other families to come and be enriched in the process of engaging with our family around this intellectual property that we've developed. There's one example as well.
And I definitely think someone in our family needs to write a book. I think there's enough interesting stories and life experiences that someone could write a good book someday.
The one that I thought of, and I know we've talked about it before, it's kind of a little more internal to our family, but I know a dream that we've had is potentially someday starting a school for the family members, the younger generation, and, being taught by other family members, whether they actually have a degree, which again is not required, or they just have knowledge that they want to impart to the next generation. And I think it's just, again, I think it's an idea that could become a reality that would be really helpful because of, the way the school system is, and just being taught by God-honoring family members that, would impart to them both the, kind of school knowledge education as well as lifelong lessons, and, even incorporating things like the more craftsmanship.
Some practical skills.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's. I'm fascinated to see what it will become in 10, 15 years, because this vision that we have now is it's an adjunct to the homeschooling that's going on, but really developing this idea of a classic Christian school. And I have done some reflecting, and now that I have 3, fourth one on the way,
5 actually.
Grandma
Grandma Alexis.
Graham and Alexis have announced it. I didn't know that you guys knew it. Mom and I knew it.
We
Okay.
heard on Sunday.
So yes, on our way we have 3 grandchildren that we can hold and 2 more in the hopper. So that, do you realize that when you look at your cousins, that now Gen 4 is, when you include your baby and Grandma Alexis's baby, 11. 11 under the age of what, 3?
4. Oh,
4?
yeah. By the time they're all born,
About 4.
everyone will be 4 and under.
11. This Gen 4 is exploding.
True.
So I have been reflecting, and I say, when I say, what is the highest impact I can have with the rest of my life? This is near the top. Caring deeply for the education of my grandchildren, and that they have a robust education in Christian worldview, right? Is going to be a difference maker for the Dewing family going forward. So I'm very excited about this vision.
I'd be
Grace.
excited about that.
Yeah.
And there's so many people in our family with vast wealth of knowledge in different areas of schooling that we could have some smart kids.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
with the teaching strength.
Yeah.
Yes,
It goes
yes,
hand in hand.
Exactly. Yeah. There are, parents that have raised their kids up in homeschooling, so they have a lot of resources they can pull from. And then there are some that, actually did, whether it's classes or actually have a degree in education, that could also help. And
Well, I love it because, Grace, your husband David serves on the family council, and he's part of helping us form these ideas. And I love that they're coming to the family council through him from you. And Grace, just to give the audience a little background, you're very passionate about education. You have a early childhood education degree yourself, and you have
elementary education.
elementary
yes.
education, yeah, and you taught in the Christian elementary context for years, and now you are a homeschool consultant as you're raising your son. And so you are a passionate and excellent teacher. And yeah, so we're inspired by you, Grace. How have family stories shaped our values? The importance, we want to talk about the power of story. When we're talking about intellectual wealth, and maybe we just need to back up and say, what is the biblical foundation for this? Anybody, you want to give the biblical, just the couple-minute biblical foundation for intellectual wealth? No? I'll keep talking.
Yeah.
So in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. God spoke the world into existence, spoke it. It is the Word. Sometimes intellectual wealth can seem very squishy, and what is it really? But when you think about language, like writing a book, it can be copyrighted. Where does the idea for this understanding of intellectual wealth come from? Is because God holds all wealth. He is the source of our intellect. And he is, ultimately owns everything. And it is his spoken word that is the source of his intellect. And so as we create through words and language, that is wealth. So a big part of that is story. And telling the story and understanding the story. So in that light, what are some of the family stories that have shaped our values?
I don't know, in my head, maybe this is different than the way you guys see it, but I think for me, the family stories don't necessarily shape the values, but I think they're a way to see what our values have been and kind of look back and realize them through the stories. I don't know if I can think of a specific one that actually shaped our values, but that's the way I think about it.
Yeah, there's a component of that too, I think, for sure.
And I'm not sure if this is answering your question exactly. When I thought of that question, I kind of looked back at the values that we have in the family, and one of them is serving, supporting, and championing the rising generation. And I just kept coming back to all the stories I'd heard from, great grandma Grace, from grandma and grandpa, from you and mom, throughout the years of just, how God showed up in your life, or just these different stories that I felt really strengthened and rooted my faith. And that goes with, that value of championing the rising generation to kind of support their launch into life and to strengthen their faith and to really kind of see God as more than just, the God of the Bible, but also the God of now and the God that, is with us here and that does affect our daily lives. And I want to be able, as I grow, to carry on those stories that I heard, as well as add my own of the times that God showed up in my life.
Yeah.
To help strengthen the next generation's faith as well.
Yeah, that's great, Grace. That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there are stories can be as simple as, and this isn't a mantra we say out loud a lot, but waste not, want not. This is a story that's been told through the generations of the Doing family. And you can look around at Grandpa's property and you realize, you know what? He's not wasting a thing. He's keeping it, going to reuse it. Right?
Yep.
Or how about, you do hear this mantra a lot, many hands make light work.
Oh, we say that a lot.
Yeah. So these are some of the family stories that, many hands, let's have a few kids to make the work lighter.
Yep.
Hey, it's been a beautiful thing.
And another thing, it's never work at Grandma and Grandpa's.
It's never work. It's always work, but it's never
It never
work.
feels like work.
Exactly. Because it's a lot of fun. Whatever
Yeah.
we're doing, we make it fun.
It's fun.
I can remember when we used to tap the trees for maple syrup when I was a kid, and the steep hill out behind the barn, became known as Mount Everest. Probably Grandpa, I don't know whether we kids named it Mount Everest or Grandpa named it Mount Everest, but when I think back about my childhood, we were out there tapping trees. We had to. It was not an option. You bundled up, you went out at 5 years old, whatever, to tap trees. But while we were out there, Grandpa let us play. We were doing more playing than we were working. But that interplay of, you'll work, but we're going to make it fun, has just always been an ethos for our, an important element of culture for our family.
Yeah. And I always look back with fond memories of great grandma's would-be. It was a yearly thing in the fall where everyone would come together. She would make big batches of soup and rolls and cookies, and we would, in one evening, just fill her basement with wood. But we had a blast doing it. Everyone looked forward to it, and
the more people that showed
work.
up, and the quicker the work went, the longer we could sit around and tell stories and laugh and eat her sugar cookies.
Yeah, best cookies.
Podcast will close on intellectual wealth. Anything you've held back or any gems you want to just mention that would encourage families to think about the importance of just appreciating it and growing intellectual wealth?
I mean, I just kept thinking of the saying, like, more is caught than taught. Just have your kids hang out with you, do life with you. As you're doing things, you don't have to make it a big lesson on teaching, but just include them. They'll pick up so much.
That's great.
From just being with you and doing things with you.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I think call out the skills that you see in people and encourage them in that and help them realize that they have that intellectual wealth, whether it's actually like academic knowledge or if it's the skills that you see in people.
And then for us younger ones watching, the older generation and the skills that they have and their intellectual wealth, make sure to ask questions so that you can gain that knowledge and that understanding.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And Grace, I thought maybe you were going to give a shout out to Kathy Koch's book, The 8 Great Smarts. You're passionate about that.
I thought about it. I also thought about it.
We as a family love that. Does anyone just want to, maybe as we wrap up, and I'm just going to wrap up with just 4 kind of next steps to encourage families, but you want to do that?
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead,
if you
Grace.
want to help me, I may not remember all 8.
I don't know if I do either.
But what's the
it is a
background?
fantastic book, a fantastic understanding of knowledge, and how, there are school smarts, what she calls school smarts, which are, being able to understand words. Word smart is one of the school smarts.
But on a big picture, it's this reality that we tend to put people, if you're school smart, you're smart, and if you're not smart.
Exactly.
And she's saying everyone's smart in
Yes.
different ways. So keep
Yes.
going.
Yeah, so it's understanding that not everyone is going to have these school smarts, but as you said, that doesn't mean you are not smart. You are smart in other ways that honestly can make a big impact in our world, sometimes more than school smarts can. And I mean, I know there is music smart, there's nature smart, there is self smart, there's people smart.
Well, I'll just say body smart, because when I look at your son, Andrew, who's one, I mean, since the time he was 5-6 months old, I'm like, that kid is body smart. He just moves in a very coordinated way. And I mean, he's always moving.
Yeah.
Right? But he's going to have just a gifting in coordination and body awareness.
Yeah, I see that.
Megan, do you want to help me?
You covered the ones that I remembered.
Okay.
So
There's 8 of them.
Well, there's picture smart.
I think that was
Remember
about
that
8.
one? Oh, that was only 5. But yeah. Or 6.
you can look it up
But
for
anyway,
yourself.
yeah, they are.
You tend to
it's
remember
so
the ones you're
helpful.
smart in.
Yes, it is just so helpful. I remember even as a teacher, like just looking at my little first graders and being like, oh, I see this smart in you, and calling it out in them
That's
too,
great. Yeah.
just to help them understand. Just because you may not be skilled in, the logic smart mathematics or
You may not be able to spell really well.
exactly,
And all of a
or in
sudden
the
getting
words and being able to spell well or read well, that's okay. You have these other wonderful skills that you bring to society, and you would just see them light up and be like, oh, I am smart, and it's just, it's so beautiful to understand.
What are a couple of your smarts in her language?
I am word smart
Yes, you are.
and picture smart, and then people smart.
Okay, I would agree for sure. What do you remember?
I remember I was nature smart, and then it might have been music and picture. I don't know. Was
For
not
sure,
word
music.
smart, but
For sure, music.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you, Elena, do you remember?
I
that?
have no idea. I never looked into it for myself.
So interesting. You went to Summit too, and Kathy Koch is she's an ingrained part of every Summit. She must have come in after you went through.
Yes, she didn't start teaching there until after we went through as students.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have listened to some podcasts that she's been in, but I haven't looked into it for myself.
Okay.
I should.
Yeah, and I don't know her categories that well to say. Wonderful. Okay, so as we wrap this up, girls, wonderful discussion. I have really enjoyed this, and I hope others have as well. Next steps to think about. Again, talk within your families the stories that your family has. Start a commonplace book where you record ideas, questions, and observations. Just, the thought will come to you during the day, and just have a place where everybody in the family can go to it and write it down. Is a great idea. Maybe identify and affirm each person's gifts and aptitudes. Not maybe, definitely. You guys have mentioned that, and that's a great, important part of developing this kind of rich culture to cultivate intellectual wealth. Research basic intellectual property protections like patents, trademarks, and copyrights. Just understand it, and that if you've never considered it, you probably ought to as a family. Consider those realities of how you can begin to value your intellectual wealth that you have. And consider a family bank to fund and test ideas. The businesses that are growing and sustaining investment into research and development. And so why would it not be so for a family to put some resources into research and development and developing, test ideas and develop the intellectual property of your family?
Yeah. Good ideas.
All right. I hope you all can join us again for this, for another podcast, and God bless you all. Thanks for joining us on the Family Dynasty Podcast, where legacy is built, not just inherited. If today's episode helped you lead your family with greater vision or purpose, share it with someone else who's building a legacy that lasts. And remember, you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the power to get wealth, that He may establish His covenant. Deuteronomy 8:18. Keep building with faith, leading with love, and living for impact. Your family is your greatest calling.